Hello, good evening, and welcome to another one of them fancy live stream things that everyone keeps on doing. I think I've left my microphone in the wrong place, so you probably can't hear all that. Let me just shuffle that over to the correct place, and you should now be able to hear me. Good evening, hello, how is everybody doing? Damn Legion, hello, welcome to the stream, and Andre van der Vlies, welcome as well. Hello Ed and fellow scarred ones. Oh dear. Oh dear. And Damn Legion giving a countdown to the start of the stream there. So today in the stream we will, not immediately, but we will be getting to what's on screen here. Down here is some Konflikt games that I played yesterday. I have not been through the pictures, so I do not know how good they are. Hopefully there will be enough information in the pictures and my memory can tell us enough information so that I can tell you guys what happened, kind of how I set up the missions, how I played the missions, what tactics worked and what didn't. And we should start off by going through my army list. But as we are starting the stream early today, because I have a little bit of extra time, we're actually going to spend half an hour doing a little bit of painting first. And I have so much in front of me. I've recently gotten into the bad habit of whenever I get a new project, I bring it onto my painting desk. And then the next project comes onto my painting desk. And then the next... and then next, and then and I'm surrounded by stuff, which is cool, but I need to put some of it away and concentrate on individual things. Finish this, then I can move on to that, finish that, right? Rather than flitting between everything and getting nothing done. But if I swap the camera view over to that, I have, just before the stream started, been working on my Cossack, and you can see I've finally gotten around to getting the base done. So we've got snow on the base, my Japanese soldier, let's get some light on him, there we go. Frosty, he's been there a while, definitely not having a good time, and the Cossack is just sprinting over the top. I've been trying to do some non-metallic metal on the gun barrels today, and it's kind of working. One of the things with my Soviet bolt action force is I deliberately made myself the challenge of painting the entire army with non-metallic metal. And for a World War II infantry model, that's actually relatively achievable, because you just have like bayonet, muzzle cap, barrel band, sight, bolt, very, very tiny little bits along the rifle, and then if you really want to, some belt buckles, which are also entirely tiny. And then on vehicles, there's the odd bit of maybe some weathering. You'll put some non-metallic weathering in. That was quite interesting to do on at least one of the vehicles. I did that. But yeah, it's just the odd detail here or there. There's no big, large areas of metalwork. Whereas, once we get to something like Konflikt 47 vehicle, and we've got slightly larger bits here, we've got more intricate stuff going on with the canopy, which I decided to do in the white, in an exposed steel. And I've also got some bits on here and here, some of the cabling. I'm going to go over these bands with the brown armor, so don't worry about those. I just want to get the under cable done first. Andre says, am I smoother on top than usual? I, in fact, am. I'm not sure how well that shows up. Yeah, I've had just a little bit off the top, and by a little bit, I mean basically all of it. Also, a little bit off the sides as well. Damn Legion says, waiting for a Humber to arrive. Nice. I've just built, a couple of weeks back, I built Humber and did a video on that build. A very good kit. All went together very nicely, except that I had actually a warped component, which was surprisingly, or unsurprisingly, it was actually very easy to deal with. Just warmed it up a bit, and that was that. So I think this is the last part of this particular vehicle to paint. Speaking of finishing off projects, I'm very much looking forward to having this one done, because I am right on the edge of being done with the Cossack. Would help if I put what I was doing in frame. So I've just painted it in a light grey, and then I've put a stripe of a dark grey, and before it's dry I'm putting a black into that as well, and I want to make sure I get a lot of black pigment in there. Because then what I do with a clean brush is wipe the underneath of it to blur that out without touching the top of the black, and that leaves me with a very thin line of black and a very faded edge, which I then come back with some white and extremely carefully, if I can manage it, put two stripes there and there, and that gives an impression. I'm not sure if I'm really hitting the non-metallic metal with these, but I'm hitting something, and that's at least worth something. So yeah, dark grey stripe going over the light grey base coat. Clean off the brush, grab some black, then as I can make it, black line, and that's actually gone nice and dark in one go. And try and mix the lower edge. Oh no, I think it's already dried, so I missed my opportunity there. Grabbing more white, and then through the bottom half of the black, as best as I can make it, a nice thin line of white. And that's the last of my white, so it'll have to do. That did nothing. I need more white. Humber known for that warped component. Rewatched your video for assistance. Yeah, I've had some people. I've actually watched a video from a few years back where the same Humber kit, and that component was perfect. It was not warped at all. But I have also seen several other people, should we say, throwing a hissy fit about it. And whilst, yes, I think it's not great that a modern kit is having an issue like that, it's not something that can't be relatively easy dealt with. There you go. So some stripes of black and white right on top of each other, hoping that that gives something of an impression of I think I need to go much more white. Andre says, did you change your video settings? Focus quite good and the light seems more consistent. This camera, every time I turn it on, every time I open OBS, this camera will have a completely different set of settings. And so every single time I set up, I reset the settings and I try my best to get it looking good-ish. But it just is what it is. It technically, like, I don't do anything differently other than the fact that I'm doing everything differently every single time. Whereas this camera here, the one that I'm painting with, is a bit different because that does remember a lot of its settings because I have a separate bit of software for it. But even then, it keeps going back into automatic mode for a lot of stuff. And whenever it goes back into automatic mode, it forgets whatever the original, like whatever it was set to previously is gone. And so I then have to turn it back to manual, lock it on, and kind of work it out again from scratch. There is something to be said that it is currently daylight. And although I have been painting in daylight for a few months, certainly if you remember some of my streams in winter, the lighting is very different because I'm not getting any sunlight into this room when there is no sunlight. So technically, no, I'm using the same settings, but also very much yes, because the setting is constantly resetting for no reason. So one thing I'm having problems with this particular model, if you notice here, that light spot of grey there, that is not paint. That is the resin underneath the paint. And if you see that white spot on the knee, just there, that's the same. And there was another piece somewhere. Yeah, here you go. That white spot right there, that's resin. And everyone keeps saying, oh yeah, metal models will, the paint will chip off and it's all horrible and stuff. And so I have far more problems with resin, especially when it comes to then repainting it and making it look not terrible afterwards. But I've got some black airbrush primer that I'm going to apply with a brush just here. Or not. There we go. I actually do need. I'm just going to shape the primer there because it wasn't coming out that consistently. That's a bit better. There we go. There we go. That's how it should be. I've forgotten already where it was. Oh yeah, that's it. Now I need to find my brown paint. And I've already ruined that with too much paint. Too much water, sorry. So on the knee, that actually blends in really nicely, just like that. In the other places, it is just still noticeable. But if I give it a bit of a highlight, like everything else, it will almost certainly disappear. Yuli, hi, how you doing? Early starting time today, or am I late? I put a community post up yesterday, more than 24 hours ago. You obviously missed it. But we're going to be doing the main topic, which is the battle reports, at the usual time. So I'll do that at 7. But I started half an hour early just because I've got the time. And you're just in time to witness the end of the Cossack, or the end of the painting of the Cossack. Because I'm basically just doing, I mean, you could witness it if it was in frame. I'm just doing the last bit of a highlight, and we're done. Yeah, I don't think there's really terribly much to do, because well, I've done it all. So as Yuli's just got here, and she's a fan of the Cossack, there is the base done with my flower snow and the Japanese soldier who's been there a little while and has totally frosted over, and the Cossack itself digging through the mud with 1 foot, sprinting along. I've been doing some non-metallic-ish, sort of non-metallic metal on the gun barrels. It sort of works, not quite that good. Touched up the canopies as well. I really like the way that the green glass has come out. So that green, I actually don't have any paint that's similar to that green. What that is my blue-grey and my brown ink interacting together. And I've not worked out exactly why, but the pigments in them mix together to make this really grungy, dull, kind of sickly green, and I really like it. But yeah, that is a Cossack completed. So we finished this model at last. I've got just the one transfer that I put on the top. Yuli says, I know you heard the proletariat calling and answered the call early. Kitwash, looking amazing. Thank you very much. And Andre says, you did? I wasn't notified. Oh, to the community post. I think community posts aren't necessarily pushed at all. I don't think anyone ever gets a notification for them. It's only if you're in YouTube, either on the phone or on PC or whatever. As you scroll through stuff, it will show you community posts from the creators that you follow, or random other creators that you've never heard of that it thinks you might like. But that's, yeah, I'm going to get a varnish on that before I get any more paint chips. And I don't know why it's the resin, because it's weird. I haven't got a single paint chip on any of the metal components here. Gun barrels, the joints here, they're metal. I'm knocking into them just as much as everything else. And weirdly, that paint chip there, I don't even know how I reached that. And it's possible when I was dry brushing that I knocked against it. That's probably the most likely answer. But yeah, it's not like I was like scraping against it. I just would have knocked it maybe once. But that was a paint chip there. I think, is that another paint chip? I'm going to stop looking because I'm just going to find more and more paint chips here. I will varnish it and then I will look over it again afterwards. And if I need to deal with anything, I will. Yeah, I'm happy to be done with that. Andre says they usually show up on the main page, but not this time. Am I hallucinating? Did I actually make a community post? Let me just double check. Because maybe I didn't make a community post. It is entirely possible. I was just looking on the Studio app, but the Studio app actually doesn't let you look at posts for reasons. So I actually have to go into... Yeah. So there is a community post by me 20 hours ago saying, due to a clerical error made several centuries ago that has not been corrected, tomorrow's live stream will start at 6:30. There you go. Ha! 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 I was right. I was right. I was not hallucinating it. Yuli says, I've had it happen with resin models too before. T34ZP feet for yourself. I think maybe I didn't clean the mold release residue fully, or the resin itself has something that the primer cannot hold on to. With the Cossack and everything else, I always wash metal and resin. Everyone washes resin, but I always wash metal and resin. I would say fairly thoroughly. It's not like I'm like dipping it in solvent and scrubbing it for hours, but I give it a good wash over. Dam says, yes, you did. I saw it. Yeah, I think, was it you who liked the post? Because there's one like on that post. Anyway. Ryan, hi, how you doing? Welcome to the stream. Evening, mate. See you had a fresh trim. Yeah, I've been having all sorts of fun at work. Everyone coming past saying, just making sarcastic comments at me. How was the walker to build? This one was really nice to build. I had a lot of fun with it. The ball joints, and you can actually see it here. So the socket, which is this component, is part of the body, and the ball, which is this component, which is part of the joining piece here, they don't actually match. The sizes of the ball and the size of the socket don't match, which is weird and annoying. And so what I've done is I filled it with Milliput and then pressed I put a little bit of Milliput in there and then forced this as hard as I could in, because that then forms the difference in size. What I didn't do is clean it up very well, so you can actually see that line there that's caught my highlighting. That's the Milliput squeezing out in between the two. I did shave it down a bit, but maybe not as well as I could have done. That side is much cleaner, because that edge there is part of the body. That's the socket, and then that immediately next to it is the ball for the joint. But then here, yeah, you can see here how they're different in size. So they're touching up at the top. They should be even all the way around. But it's quite clearly, it's almost crescent moon, and all of this will be milliput packed in. But that's very easy to do, as long as you have milliput. Mix up just a small amount of milliput, stick it in, press the parts together, wait for it to dry or cure, and then super glue it in place. I always break apart milliput connections and then super glue them back together, because I find that milliput by itself isn't strong enough. But other than that, gun barrel sticks on, the other gun barrel sticks on. You've got two joints here and here, and then two joints here, and that's it. I then went and started cutting, so I cut a couple of places on this leg to give it a different pose. Did I cut this leg as well? I think I may have done. Yeah, I did. Yeah. So I cut this leg to actually compress it, and I shaved a bit in here to compress it even further than it realistically should go. So this leg is slightly shorter, and this leg is extended much longer. And that didn't take long at all. That took probably the whole thing was 20 or 30 minutes. Maybe? No idea. Yuli says, always wash both fairly thoroughly. Not sure why, but I had the same issue with resin from Warlord. It also might be a primer issue. Because we've had wild swings in weather from very hot recently to very cold not that long ago. I cannot remember when I primed this, because I think I primed this in winter. And if I didn't warm the can properly, there's a good chance that that the priming chemical and the pigment chemical come out differently. So it looks like it's coated because it's got the pigment, the paint part of the primer, but it hasn't actually got the priming compound in it, or at least, or maybe not enough. But that's another side guess sort of thing. But that is done, and we're just coming up to 7 o'clock, so we'll start the stream. Although I just want 1 second to check on something else. And then move over to this one. This one. Yes. Isn't that a fun picture? My Sasori climbing up into a building, firing down upon these guys. We shall get to the reasons why. This was, I think that was my second game, but we'll come to it. We'll come to it. In fact, let's just talk about the army that I brought. No, I have to talk about the event. So before I talk about the army, I'll talk about the event. This was the second of our kind of slightly more thematic, slightly more narrative days. So I was actually partially running this event. I always try and focus these on at least trying to tell a story with the missions rather than just having a back and forth, which is what we commonly do in the more structured events. And that means that we can actually have attack and defend missions, which is nice. Because if you're playing in a tournament style, we don't call them tournaments because we are more relaxed about games, even like for anything we play. So when we play that style, we always have a mirror match of mission. So the deployment's the same for both players. The mission objectives in the same distance, so it's either in the center line of the board, or there's two evenly spaced across the board, or it will be the same mission objective for like getting into the enemy's deployment zone, for example, and both players will have the same mission. So that's good for the structured formal events that we run, but for the narrative, we're actually just able to go crazy with many different missions, and it does follow on from our story for the previous one. I did do a video. I nearly ruined my first wargaming event, or something like that was the title of that video. I've learned a lot, and my colleague James, who's co-running the event, also learned a lot from that, and we did a much better job this time. Not perfect. Not perfect. We can definitely improve, but we have improved. As long as we continue to show improvement, I think we're doing quite well. People did enjoy the games, and that's the important thing. John Shepherd, hi, welcome to the stream. Need to get some Konflikt 47. The stuff I've been using is kit-bashed bolt action stuff with 3D printed bits and Wargames Atlantic. I mean, kit bashes are good too. I've got a bunch of Wargames Atlantic zombie parts. I've actually got some Wargames Atlantic Italians. About half of my Italian infantry is Wargames Atlantic. It's good stuff. Yuli says, at some point that works for you, can we talk about good practices for deployment in Konflikt? I feel like I always make terrible mistakes when deploying that I only manage to undo by turn 6. By turn 6, I'm usually tabled, so I don't understand this whole turn 6 nonsense. What I can do is, when I talk about each mission, the very first image is a picture of the battlefield before I deploy, and I'll try and talk about what the mission is, what I think my opponent's going to do, what I need to achieve, and what that means for my deployment. And then the first couple of pictures after that will be the models as I've deployed them. So I'll try and do that for each one. Hey, Klevek. Hey, how you doing? Hello there. What did I miss? Oh, you missed everything. We're just finishing the stream. Yeah, sorry. See you tomorrow. Andre says, does Warlord use resin and plastic for different models? Because I built bolt action airborne with plastic cement, and that worked out just fine. So, yes. There's actually 5 different materials that Warlord games make. The vast majority of stuff, most of the infantry, most of the vehicle kits is going to be polystyrene plastic. So that's the stuff that comes on a big sprue. Very easy to tell because none of the others come on the big sprue. Do I have one handy? There you go. If it comes on anything that looks like that, it is plastic, because none of the others come like this. They also do metal, which are also fairly easy to tell because it's metal and it's way heavier than everything else. That can only be used superglue or epoxy resin. And then there's a couple of different types of resin that they use. In the listing for each model, it will say what the material is for each one. So if you're not sure, go onto their website and look in. There's a whole bunch of little tags that list it, and it will say what material it is, and it'll either say metal, plastic, or Warlord resin, traditional resin, or Warlord resin plus something like those. But all of the resins kind of treat them the same way and use superglue, and then and metal as well have to use superglue. John Shepherd says, yeah, my total core units are Wargames Atlantic, Werewolves for the Shrek Wolf and Volksgrenadiers, and building either Wargames Atlantic or Raumjäger. I've seen the Wargames Atlantic Werewolves, and they are much smaller than the old metal Warlord Games ones. That's not to say you can't use them, you absolutely can, as long as you put them on the right size base. And even you don't even really need to put them on the right size base, because I've seen people using them. I suspect that when the plastic ones come out, they will be even bigger because the Ursas have got quite a bit bigger as well. Right. One of the requirements of this event is some of the unit selections that we've had to bring, so I'll talk about that. The points limit is 1150, which is the very odd middle ground, but we were trying to balance things out with making sure everyone got 3 games, so we didn't want to go for too big a points limit. But also with some of the missions we had, we didn't want to give people such a small army that they would clear out the mission and be sitting around, which is partly a problem that we had in the first event. But the extra requirement for the selection for the list selection is that you have to bring an assault platoon, officer, and 2 Konflikt 47 squads, and the other 2 squads must be rifle platoons. Mundane squads, rifle platoons, or whatever the equivalent for each nation is. The first option in the troops choice for Konflikt 47 in the PDF for each nation. In the case of my Japanese, it's just the rifle squad. And this is to represent the local militia that's been grabbed as the armies are scrambling around, trying to sort out the situation as it's unfolding. So they're grabbing colonial troops, they're grabbing local police, they're grabbing anyone they can that can hold a rifle and dragging them along with. So my officer down here at the front, it's actually slightly out of frame annoyingly, I didn't take that picture very well. But this is 3 models assault frame with the Yomiuri launcher. That's a type of officer I brought all the time. So really useful. I love having them. He had a point of guts. I originally was going to take a point of luck so that I could help out the ghosts. Because this is a slightly smaller points limit game, 1150 rather than 1500, I don't have a second platoon, like I don't have an artillery platoon like I would prefer, so I can't have a second officer. So I've only got 1 point, so I had to choose between a point of guts to help the assault frames or a point of luck to help the ghosts, and I chose eventually the point of guts. I felt that would be more useful for me. So of course I got the assault frames, no upgrades at all, just straight off of the list. Love these guys. These are actually my proxy ones, totally not Space Marines, and they've all got their Sashimono still. I haven't broken these ones. There's only 8 here. The other two actually have broken flags, but these ones don't. These ones are all still fully assembled and ready to fight. And then up here, I did mention them a second ago, these are my ghosts. Squad of 6. Not quite the minimum size. I had just enough points at the end because I was trying to fit an artillery platoon in, and I didn't quite make it. So instead of that, I filled out some of the squads, just fiddled with numbers to make them fill the role that I was using them for as best I could. So that's the ghosts. Their job is to jump around and harass the enemy. The assault frame squad, its job is to get stuck into the enemy's face and hack them to bits. My 2 regular mundane squads are quite interesting, and I've gone in opposite directions. So this squad here is a mortar squad. So it's 7 models, which is the minimum size, and 2 light mortars. I also took 2 rifle grenades, which may have been a mistake because I did not fire them. I think I fired the rifle grenades once in all 3 games, because the light mortar is 36 inches and 36-inch range, and the rifle grenade is 18-inch range, so half the range. But I always was in the situation where I moved up, got in range of the light mortars and started shooting, and then I kind of needed to sit there and keep shooting rather than move up. And it's only when either the target unit moved and it broke the 0, or I wiped the unit out, that I was then able to move up and maybe get the rifle grenades in range. But the rifle grenades are also pretty cheap, so it's not that much of a detriment. Up here, big veteran squad. There's 10 guys here. They've got, they've got a flamethrower, and they've got a few submachine guns as well. So these are going to go up next to the assault frames and probably not do as well, you might expect. But they've got a flamethrower and they've got submachine guns, so they can do some shooting if they get up close to something like a werewolf. They can put the flamethrower on, or Ursus perhaps. But if they get close to mundane troops, they've got a flamethrower and submachine guns. They can do a bit of damage there. If they get into close combat, the NCO does have a sword. The NCO here also has a sword because legally mandated that you have a sword in your NCOs. Absolutely must be done. Quickly looking at everything else. Shiboru Sniper. So, interesting thing is, because of the way that the assault platoon is laid out, I could not bring my Ashigaru, which is what I usually do. So my light mortars and my Ashigaru sniper are my gun line. That's it. That's all I have. I don't have any other kind of big squad to sit on objectives and fire from cover or anything like that. This is it. So that's a very different way of playing from what I usually do. Lunge mine. I've spoken about the lunge mine many times. It is a mandatory unit for the Japanese. It is our best anti-tank weapon, and given that we have very limited anti-tank generally, you basically have to bring it. If you have a anti-tank slot anywhere in any platoon, you have to bring it with a lunge mine. 2 trucks at the back are for transportation. So the assault frame is going in one of those with the officer, and then the assault unit, so this unit with the flamethrower, and then also the lunge mine went in the other one. And that gives them loads of mobility. And I think, and we'll get to this as we go through the list, I think I did a bit too much of the fast-moving assault element. Because this is 1150 points rather than 1500s, I've cut back quite a bit. But I've pushed what I've got into the fast-moving assault elements. 2 trucks filled with models. And I've got so little gun line, whereas I would usually have a reasonable balance of the two. I've kind of skimped on the gun line, and I've got more assault units than I would normally have. And so that is possibly a mistake, but it's more of a way that I've focused this list in a slightly different way to how I normally would. If I can play it well, it's not a problem, but we'll see if I play it well as we go through the list, go through the games. Finally, the last model here, and this was in a Walker platoon, so it's by itself, is the Type 7 Sasori. And the only reason why it's here is for that Shiboru cannon, and I have changed my mind about the Shiboru cannon. I have said many times before, Shiboru cannon's pretty bad anti-tank weapon, because you need to get both hits and use a ref die, and it's so unlikely to get all of that to come together at once. It's sort of a bit bad, but like it can destroy a vehicle quite well if it gets a double hit, but you have to get a double hit and it's unlikely. However, I realised something. If you shoot at infantry, you get Pen 3 with up to 3 hits. Against something like Schreckwolfen or Ursus or Stahltruppen or Mach 2s, the Armour 7 infantry choices, all of a sudden the Shiboru cannon starts to make more sense. It is still too expensive by about 80 points, but it now has much more of a use. And if I'm going to take the Shiboru cannon, I'm going to take the Type 7 because it's my favourite model, but it's also got claws and legs and is fast. And so it can rush up alongside the trucks maybe, by itself if needs be, and I can get it stuck in and do some horrible damage, maybe. So that is my list, and we should go to the first game in a moment. I'll catch up on chat. I've seen loads of messages. Yuli says to John, can't help but respect Kit Bash's themed armies more, shows more players... Yeah, shows players care more deeply. This is kind of why I'm annoyed at my my automatons, because I've gone with a somewhat uninspired paint job. We'll see that in my video next week. But I really enjoy kind of when you start a new army, getting some models and thinking, what's the theme for this? Am I going to go with like bright blue for my Japanese? Am I going to go with like trenches and cutting the legs off and having them like hunkered down in like underground or something else? I've done all sorts of things over the time. It's loads of fun to actually do that, especially if you do it to a whole army. Andre says, cut 2 bits of sprue and tested the plastic cement before proceeding. Oh, that was, yeah, to do with the different materials. That's a good test. Yeah, because if you cut... metal and resin will come with a different... It will come with sprue, but it's a very different type of sprue. But yeah, if you clip off the bits that you're not actually using in the model and try and glue them together, that's a good way of testing it. Clove had to go out for a few minutes, so what did I miss out on? Again, like for real, no clue if you answered me. You didn't even hear my joke the first time. Well, I'll tell the joke again. Yes, Clove, you've missed absolutely everything. We've just ending the stream. Thanks for watching. Oh yeah, and I finished up the Cossack, as Andre says. There you go. Cossack. Cossack is done. Clove says, bro changed opinion on the Shiboru. Need to redo our video on how to optimize the starter set. Shiboru cannon. I believe that when we had our discussion, I actually mentioned this. I can't remember if I did or not, but I think I may have done. Or I may have mentioned that using the Shiboru cannon in a different way, but certainly in a positive way, rather than just saying it's crap like I used to. So I don't think we need to redo that. Thanks for answering our question. You're welcome, Clove. Right, game number 1. Boom. Here is the table. We have a road along the center of the table and a crashed truck. We have a lot of open ground over here. We have a fair amount of open ground around the road here, but then we have all of these copses of trees that block line of sight as well as the hills. So this area around the truck is surprisingly secluded, but it's also easy to get to, which makes it somewhat defendable, but there's also still options to assault it. And the mission here was that the defenders get this table quarter, and they're going to deploy up to half their army or more in this deployment zone, and the rest of the models, the rest of the units are in reserve. And my opponent did bring some units in reserve. We'll get to that in a moment. And the objective is to hold that truck. So the defenders are starting with the objective in hand and the ability to deploy in various bits of terrain. Very good for defensive play. And I, as the attacker, I've got this long board edge that I've got to come on, so I can actually come along right here fairly close, or I can swing through here. There's nice big open ground that I can get to there, that I can use with my fast vehicles, or I can get some units onto the hill and fire down upon the defenders here. But then, like I said, I've got close range stuff going up here. So given my list and what I've got 2 trucks filled with angry Japanese soldiers that want to get up close and personal. I was tempted to drive them through this open ground because I can move 24 inches on a run order across this. This is just normal open ground. So I can get from here to about here in the first turn, and then at the start of the second turn, advance 12 inches and jump out and be amongst them straight away. But I also then realized that I can just move 12 inches and then deploy here and already be aggressive in turn 1. And so that's what I decided to do with my trucks. I needed to get some units into here because this terrain here is firing upon the objective. So that's the important stuff for me to take hold of. So my mortar squad came up here. My sniper was intending to get up here, but we'll see why that didn't happen in the first couple of turns. And finally, my Sasori came up right on this side and was planning on planting itself on top of the hill here, giving it a perfect field of view on absolutely everything. To fire upon any unit it wants to, and then charging down into the objective. So that is kind of my original plan. Sasori's coming over the hill, trucks are coming up through here to get as close as possible, as fast as possible, and then my fire support units are taking this terrain here, so I can fire from them into, again, the objective. I know that my opponent can come along here, and I know I can come along here, but for the most part, this is not important to me because this is the objective, the truck right here. And so I do put a unit of ghosts over here behind the hill so that they can advance, fire, and then ghost dance away. But that actually wasn't really very relevant because my opponent didn't send anything this way, and that was the only unit I sent there. So it's almost like we played in just half of the board, so it was a very close-up fight. So this is why my sniper didn't get to that patch of trees, because there are Shrek wolves in the trees. So you can see here my truck has moved up into just between these trees and is about to move forwards and go to the objective, but then some Shrek wolves showed up, and yeah, I had to deal with that because these Shrek wolves can easily destroy everything else here. The only thing I've really got is my Sasori, which is too far away. That's all the way on the left-hand flank, and the assault frames, and I just have to deploy I have to commit the assault frames here against the Shrek wolves, which is what I didn't really want to do. So the assault frames get 3 attacks each with +1 pen. So 8 of them is, what, 24 attacks? That's pretty nice. But because the Shrek wolves are damage value 7 naturally, that means I still need 6s to do any damage to them. I've got a lot of attacks, but I need 6s out of them. Whereas the Shrek wolves, they're getting 3 attacks each, and they have +2 pen, and my armor's only 6. So they're actually taking me out on 4s. And so this did go in my favour. Actually rather well. The rolling, my opponent's rolls were pretty poor for this combat, because they should have done half the squad or more. But they actually only took out a couple of models, and I did wipe out all 4 of them. So that was a massive panic in the first turn of the game, having these Shrek wolves here, and that's partly because of the opponent's deployment. They were able to put them fairly close. They were actually just behind here, and they ran up into the trees here. So here is the other truck. So I really wanted my assault frames here, and I maybe could have put the assault unit, the rifle squad, over here, but it ended up being the other way around. So this is my assault squad with the flamethrower, and they are firing the flamethrower at the Stormtrooper and the everything else, like the submachine guns and rifles, at the opponent's mundane squad. Didn't really do much damage. I think my first shot with the flamethrower killed just 1 of the Stormtrooper. So this was just a fight that lasted forever. Interestingly, rather than the Stormtrooper coming in and just wiping these guys out, which they could easily have done, the Stormtrooper were very, very focused on getting over to the Sasori, because my opponent was very worried about this scary looking vehicle in a very dominating position. But if you notice, it's still behind the hill. I haven't got it on top of the hill, so it's not in position to do anything yet. So my opponent deployed a Heuschrecker using the jump special rule right behind my Sasori, within 12 inches, which means I get to shoot it on the way in, and I cannot remember exactly what the damage result was, but I didn't destroy it. But what I did do is force it down, which means it can't fire upon me. So it's jumped into position right behind me, right in the corner of the table, potentially shooting into my rear armor, which is very, very much not what I want to be happening. But I managed to do it, just knock it off kilter just enough that it doesn't get to shoot as it comes in. And if you notice here, my lunge mine's jumped out of the truck and come back the way he's come. This is the board edge that he just started off at, driving up there, and he's had to get out and run all the way back. Now, you can't assault from a vehicle into any kind of assault, so you can't drive up a truck and then jump out and immediately jump into an assault. So he's jumped out of the truck and he's waiting there for the next turn. And whoever gets the first order die in the next turn, well, the autocannons are going to gun this guy down, and the anti-tank gun's going to blow that up if my opponent gets the first turn. But if I get it, then my lunge mine is going to get stuck in. I got the first order die in the next turn, and my lunge mine went in. Set off that massive explosion, penetration value of 8. Rolled enough to do a penetrating hit. Absolutely great. Loving that. Rolled a 1. Crew stunned. More pins. No damage. So close. My poor little lunge mine. Always love to see it. Love when it actually makes contact with the enemy, because it's basically the best thing to blow up enemy walkers. But in this case, unfortunately, the rolls didn't let me destroy it. So here's the second turn of the fight in the center. So like I said, the Stormtrooper are desperately trying to come over here to attack the Sasori, because my opponent is very focused on that. And whilst they've got 2 light machine guns here that are shooting into there, into my veteran unit here, it's just not rolling very well. These guys are getting 10 shots each, and they're killing like 1 or 2 every round, which is just too slow, not enough. And so what I do, I think it's in this next picture. It is not. What is this? Oh yeah, this is something happened on a different table that was just hilarious. Here's a squad of Ursus, brand new plastic models, and here's a squad of Shrek-Wolfen, which I think, yeah, they're the old metal ones. They got into a close assault on each other. This is totally unrelated. This is a different board, but they got into a close combat. I think it was 6 Ursus, and 2 of them got shot up on the way in, and 6 Wolves, with 1 of them getting shot up on the way in. They end up in combat. They absolutely muller each other. And I think 1 Ursus survived, technically winning the combat, but everything else died. It was just a horrific, violent mess of claws and teeth and growling. Good fun. So I took a picture of someone else's board. Anyway, back to our board. So my assault frames have finished off the Shrek-Wolfen that I have to deal with, and have moved up and had some close range shots at the enemy Stormtrooper, which did nothing, and then charged the Stormtrooper. This was the Stormtrooper officer, and won that combat. My officers come up here and sort of isn't doing anything, but is there. I think I used the point of guts on this squad so that they could move off to my enemy's reserves, and I'm going to have to move my webcam. Because we can see there's a truck there with an infantry squad, so that's my opponent's reserves coming in. And so I used point of guts from the officer on this squad, so that this squad can go off and deal with that truck. That's essentially the same thing. So the Stormtrooper officer's gone. Mundane squad here is having a real bad time, but is holding on at the moment, and they still have the objective. So I have not achieved my the mission objective yet. I absolutely have to turn my attention onto the mundane squad. And it's interesting that in a game of Konflikt 47 where everyone's been forced to take the normal boring infantry, my opponent actually made good use of them, and this unit of mundane normal infantry are so important right now. And we're coming up to the time limit of the game, so we probably have 1 more turn after this picture. And so I really need to focus and get this squad gone so that I can take the objective. Again, my opponent was very much focused on my Sasori, and I think this might be a little bit of a mistake on his part, because with the Heuschrecker there fighting it a bit, and it's kind of stuck fighting back, this Spinner could have come to the center of the board and possibly prevented me from getting onto the objective, or at least slowed me down. But the Spinner here instead deployed from reserve and came down to again fight the Sasori. So in a way, my Sasori hasn't actually fought much, hasn't really shot much, but is tying up a lot of the enemy forces. Because this is a 200 and something point vehicle. This is a 180, and this is a 120 point vehicle. So there's more enemy mech points than there is Sasori, and yet the Sasori is just holding them down by being annoying. And so sort of this is a bonus for me, even though it's not really. Well, it's my opponent's tactical decision to do this. I'm sure if the Sasori had been destroyed, these 2 vehicles would quickly have come along and started fighting in the center. Speaking of the center, my squad up here, this is my veteran squad with the flamethrower. They moved through this trees, shot the flamethrower back, which killed still not enough of the Stoltroopen, but I shot the mortar squad at them and finished them off with the mortar squad. And then all of the small arms here and the submachine guns of my officer fired into the enemy mundane squad, wiping them out and winning me the objective. Interestingly, you can see my assault frames here. There's only 3 of them left, because when they charged over and tried to assault the second mundane squad, the squad that was in reserve from my opponent, they 3 of them, sorry, got gunned down on the way into that fight. So that mundane squad, the reserve mundane squad from up here, took out quite a few of my assault frames, and the first mundane squad was holding on to the objective all the way to the end of the game. So my opponent made really good use of his mundane squads, which is rather interesting in a game of Konflikt 47. However, I did manage to overwhelm them eventually just by keeping the pressure on from every direction, and I took the objective. So the important point of this objective is that after our previous event, the Axis forces managed to grab an ancient artifact from underneath the ruins of the city, and have driven it all the way from Tehran over to Greece, and or flew it over rather, and then from the airport have driven it up into the mountains to try and hide it. But the convoy was ambushed along the way, and so this is information that we need to work out where the Axis have taken it. So my Japanese have done really well. Not only have I won a game, which is something that the Japanese aren't doing very much of, but I've also got an important bit of intel for the campaign. And I think that's now the next mission, so I'm going to pause for a moment on this picture and catch up with chat. Clove says, well, you said it's expensive and you need to be really close to the enemy vehicle, that's all. Yes, so that's to do with the Sasori. If you're using the Sasori in the anti-vehicle role, that is correct. That is how you use it. It just has to be hyper-aggressive. I think using the Shiboru cannons as an anti-heavy infantry weapon is something that I've come up with more recently. I think I've seen other people doing it as well, but that is kind of a very important thing to learn about that weapon and how it can be used. So Yuli says, when I got into Konflikt, I almost started collecting Japan largely due to the power armor frames, Scorpion Walkers, and the feel of the army. Assault frames fighting werewolves is what the game is about. There you go. Right at the beginning of the game. This is not a fair fight. I should have easily lost this. Mathematically, I should have lost this. It's just my opponent rolled just no kills in that first. And I think I managed to get 3 of the 4 of them dead the first time, and then we had a second round of combat and I finished the 4th one. But yeah, so I always end up with my assault frames fighting something like Shrek Wolves, which is not really what they're good at. What they're good at is jumping between like lesser assault units and just going killing 2 or 3 units, just going from one to the next to the next, losing models along the way but wiping out squads in return. That's what they're good at. They're not good at fighting Ursus, Shrek Wolves, Mark IIs, anything damage value 7. I wonder, actually, Mark IIs, if so long as they're not the Assault Mark IIs, that's actually a better fight. But all of the others are assault units. Yep. Yuli says, yeah, Ursus. Klebeck says, that was a Heuschrecker Locust, damage value 9. What was I calling it? Was I calling it the wrong vehicle? Okay. Yeah, this is the Heuschrecker. And this is the Spinner. Not the Vogelspinner, just a normal Spinner. Yuli says not being a fair fight is what makes it heroic. Absolutely. Klebeck says what got me into Konflikt 47 was German Grenadiers using power armor, Shred Trooping, Mud Skipper, and Mark 1 tin cans. Especially this. Oh, Italians! I'm so looking forwards. To the Italians. I still need, and I don't think I have the skills for it necessarily, but I still need to at least try to make a Lorica Segmentatum, which is the Roman banded armor torso for a Stahltruppen, because that means you can use all the spare parts from the Stahltruppen with Roman style armor, and if you put like a Roman plume on the helmet, you've got Italian Stahltruppen. Just out of spare parts. I really like that. I also want I think it's North Italian armored suits, because they're the gladiator styles. Okay, so game the second. There are 3 things in life that are guaranteed: death, taxes, and German counterattacks. So because the 3 games all went in favour of the Allied push, the Axis are on the counteroffensive. So all 3 games in the second round are a mirror match, with both sides coming off of the board edge. And so that means I've got to move up through this board. And if anyone's seen any of my previous live streams on this particular board, you'll know that I do not like this setup. I have a plan, which I'm probably going to at least try to get some work done on this week. I have a plan that might help, but for the moment I have not enacted that plan. So this is a difficult board for me to play on. So the difficulty for me is that we have heavy cover, which is slow to move through, or we have just full-on open ground. So we have open ground running down the length of the board from me to the enemy, which gives loads of line of sight and no cover. So if I'm running up here, lots of stuff can shoot at me and I'm not in cover. So that's not great. If I move through the buildings, I'm moving very, very slowly and getting shot at a lot. And though I'm getting cover, it's taking forever to get there. But either way, there is this band of open ground all through the middle, and we've even got a bit of open ground here that you have to get across. So no matter where I come from on my board edge, there is this open ground in the middle that I have to contend with. So I have to position myself very well in the first turn, so that in the second turn I can get over this empty space and into my opponent wherever they end up being in turn 2, and get that and start getting assaults in. So that is the difficulty that I'm going to face. However, I've got my 2 trucks, I've got my ghosts that can jump around, I've got my Sasori that's quite quick, so I kinda can get that done. Yuli says, I was really hoping German counterattacks were optional. Oh, what was it? I can't remember the exact quote, but it's something like, you can do what you want for trying to enact your battle plan, but just remember the enemy gets a vote. Klobek says, literally sent STLs of Stahltruppen stuff. Yes, but they're just copies of the official Stahltruppen. I'm specifically talking about an Italian version of the Stahltruppen, so that you can play with an Axis Italian Axis Italian force with the Italian what was it? It doesn't matter. There's not a lot of Italian first edition Konflikt models, but those and then these is what I'm saying. We can discuss this after the stream. Don't panic. Don't worry. It's okay. So, looking at the board, I've got a few kind of gunline units, and so what would be good for that is to get them as kind of far forward as I can, but in positions where I've got good lines of sight for them. And so what I plan on doing with my mortar squad is to just get them into this area here, because as soon as they're here, they can see through this piece of area terrain. So this is all the buildings here are rubble. They are ruined buildings. So they're not counting as buildings, they're counting as area terrain. So as soon as this squad gets in here, they can see through it. So I can see all of the board here, and it's only like behind these bits that I can't see. So this mortar squad wants to get here so that they've got that line of sight. I'm going to do something similar with my sniper to try and get them up. In fact, they're on the board here on the right hand side. So their plan was to get into this building because then they get loads of line of sight as well. And then it's a case of where do I put the trucks with my assault units. And I think this is just too open, even for the fast moving trucks. Because I can go 24 inches and sit in the middle of the board in turn 1 and hope that I get to move before my enemy gets to shoot me. But that's a big hope. And even if I go, and even if I be a bit more cagey and put stuff behind some of the terrain, my opponent can easily set up stuff to attack them on the way in. So I actually choose, and I'm going to move my webcam again. I actually choose to come through the tight streets on the right hand side. So I'm going to come with my 2 trucks through here to get them as far up the board as I can manage, and probably even to here and come in sideways. Because if I can do that, it means that any units that my opponents have deployed over here can't shoot because there's this big old building in the way. That didn't quite happen, but that was my plan for them. And then my Sasori is going to be treated almost like it's part of the firing side of the army rather than the assault side of the army. So it's going to go over here. So I've got various units in various points here that are firing in various directions, and then I've got the assault elements, the 2 trucks. Sorry, I'm pointing in the wrong place. I've got various firing units over here, and I've got my assault elements, the 2 trucks, driving fast to get through the narrow streets on the right. So I managed to get my trucks up close. However, my opponent has a squad of Nachtauben, and the Nachtauben special ability is to have their action, use a Rift Eye, and they go into ambush. So it's kind of like fighting the Finns in a way. And this is a big squad. I think it started off as 9 models with the, I can't remember what it's called, but the Schwerlight MP40. So each of these models is getting 2 shots with pen value of +1. On ambush, just waiting for me to do something, and however, in a similar way to how my opponent in the first game was focused on my Sasori, my opponent here is actually focused on my assault squad. So when I drove this truck up, he didn't set off the ambush, he shot it with something else. And when I threw out this assault squad, my mundane guys with the flamethrower, he still didn't set off that ambush, and so I shot down quite a few of the models with the flamethrower. And then I moved up the ghosts, which I might have a picture of. Yeah, so my ghosts are in here. My ghosts fired upon them. And then in the next turn, right at the beginning, I moved my ghosts into the street, into open ground, said, "Would you like to set off that ambush?" And my opponent said, "Nope, I'm not gonna." So I shot the Shibori rifles into them, and then Ghost danced away. So being in the middle of the street is definitely not a place you want the Ghost Warriors to be, but at the end of their move, once they've had their shots, they can Ghost dance and go away to safety. There was a nice place that I put them, which I'll talk about in a moment, but just getting them off of the street was important. But I tried to goad my opponent into setting off that ambush, and they refused because they really wanted to shoot at my assault frames. So if we see right here, let's zoom in on that. That is my lunge mine. So my lunge mine guy has jumped out of this truck that's blown up and is just kind of standing there in the middle of open ground. There's a spinner right there in front of him, and he's like, "I'm having that. I'm having that spinner. I'm going after it." But the spinner moves into this building instead, and there's an infantry squad in here that moved out so that they could shoot at me. Don't know why my opponent did it that way around, but that's how they did things. On the left-hand flank, This was kind of a big nothing burger in a way, because my Sasori got up into position, firing its machine guns at the regular squad and firing the Shiboro cannon at the werewolves. So I did manage to take out a couple of the werewolves with the Shiboro cannon, but it just wasn't enough. It wasn't taking them out quickly enough. So I'm not sure if my idea of using the Shiboro cannon as an anti-heavy infantry unit weapon is as good as I said it was, but it can be done. It can take out Shrek Wolves, it can take out the other equivalents as well, because it was taking them out here, it just wasn't taking them out fast enough. So this is a picture taken from my opponent's side of the board. So if I go to here and move my webcam. So this building here is now this building here. And this is where my ghosts have come. And this gives my opponent a dilemma. And it's always good to give your opponent horrible things to think about. It's like, what do you do? What do you plan for? Make sure that no matter what your plans are going, if your plans are getting messed up, make sure your opponent's plans are also getting messed up. So I've put my ghosts all the way over here, kind of behind the lines of my enemy, so that he has to now send... He either has to ignore them and let them do what they want to do, or he has to send something over here to deal with them. And so that's a decision that my opponent now has to make. So this is the result of the Nachtalben versus Assault Frame. So let's go to where it looked before. So this squad of veterans are completely gone, I believe. Yep, they're completely gone, shot up by the infantry squad. The Assault Frames jumped out, managed to get cover behind their own truck doing it, and then assaulted. Thankfully, they were close enough that the Nachtalben didn't get to shoot them. Didn't get to shoot them twice, only got to shoot them that first time. And the massive close combat that resulted ended up in the Assault Frames quite easily winning, which is what you might expect. But I did take quite a few casualties along the way, actually quite a few more than I had expected. But I would like to point out that even though there's this massive squad here that's just ran right in front of where my lunge mine was, my lunge mine doesn't care about any of that nonsense. And he's going for that spinner. My lunge mine is going for that spinner. I would love to have been able to charge, but this is over 6 inches, and going through a building or going through rubble means that you have to move at an assault speed. Sorry, at a advanced speed. So he moved 6 inches to there, and then at the beginning of the next turn, I sent him off. He was within 6 inches, no shooting on the way in, charged in and blew up the spinner. So 2 hits in 2 games. My lunge mine's doing absolutely fantastic. The first game didn't destroy the mech, but this time he absolutely has. Love me a lunge mine. Gotta love the lunge mine. Interestingly, my opponent has, on the other side of the Vogelspinner, an officer with just a normal assault rifle. Just not a Stahltrooper officer, just a normal... I think it might have been the Totenrotter officer, just for the armor. But he's just got an assault rifle, and he was shooting into the assault frames. And somehow, even though he needed 6s to get them, and not rolling very many shots, was managing to take them out one by one. It's kind of annoying. Also annoying is the Shrek Wolves on this side of the board. So they're coming across, and the Shrek Wolves just do not care about being out in the open. Damage value 7, hard to kill. My opponent is just taking the risk of them being shot at. He knows that even if I take out a few of them, the unit's fearless, they're still going to keep going. So I have to take out every single model to stop them. And my Sasori tried, wasn't doing it very well. Now, because the mission objective here is to take out as many units of the opponent as possible. We're counting order dice. My opponent takes a very good decision here to kind of ignore the Sasori and to go for this mortar squad. So there's only regular 4+ infantry here, and so they did not survive. They got absolutely chewed up immediately. But the NCO has a sword. And on the way in, my NCO stabs down one of the Schreckwolfen. Always take the swords. If you're a Japanese player, lunge mine, mandatory unit. Swords on every single NCO, mandatory option. You have to do it. So I've taken out, I think this was a squad of 6, so I've taken out 2 with Sasori, and then I took out a third with a sword on a regular 4+ mundane infantry NCO. Love it. However, on the other side of the board, things are not going that well for me. I have almost nothing left that can deal with that Vogelspinner, other than literally my assault frames charging it. But if you notice, my assault frames now have 3 pins, so them doing anything is not guaranteed. But the my officer over here, you can see my officer right here, right in front of a squad of regular infantry, and even though they're regulars, they've got a light machine gun in there, they've got loads of rifles, and they're at point blank range. That ain't going well. That ain't going well for everyone. More importantly, because I've got all these pins, even though all of this is happening, I could have got lucky and had the first order die. And I did get the first order die. And I gave it to my assault frames, who failed their order test and went down. And then I got another one, and I gave it to my officer, who failed his order test and went down. So they're just sitting ducks. Absolutely sitting ducks. Point blank range to the enemy. They don't stand a chance. And they're not going to do anything to the enemy on the way down. So here's kind of wrapping up to the end of the game. We've got the Schreckwolfen very much looking down the barrel of that Shiboru cannon. I would have liked to have played this out and just see what would have happened here. But we didn't end up having this fight. So the Sasori survived, and the Schreckwolfen squad, half strength, but they did survive. And this is kind of the state of affairs. My sniper's still around. My Sasori's still around. My officer's gone. Strangely enough, my assault frame squad did survive, and my ghosts are still in this building here. So they have also survived. So I have managed to take out a few of my enemy's models, and my opponent has managed to take out a few of my models. But overall, we actually scored a draw, which is very interesting. And going back to what I said at the beginning about how I've got too much assault units and I've got these 2 very easy to destroy trucks. If I had 1 assault unit or 1 assault vehicle and it was like a Hokai, which is an armored vehicle, it might have still been destroyed, but it would only be 1 destroyed vehicle rather than 2. And it would have given me more shooting units to deal with maybe something like Schreckwolves or something else. Things could have gone very differently. And that was game 2. So I'll give everyone a moment. I'll read through chat and catch up before we talk about game 3. And what are we at? We're at 8 o'clock. That's good. Good timing. We're making good timing. So Klovek says the sword upgrade is 2 points. And this is well worth the 2 points. In previous games, I've had a unit of Shiboru with the sword on the NCO take out Schreckwolves. It's really nice to have them in a weak unit that Schreckwolves are going to think is a nice easy target, and then all of a sudden, haha, sword, stab, stab. Love it. Yeah, Klovek says, point blank, hitting on 2s. I feel sleepy, I'm going to lay down. Yeah, it was definitely... They've got missile launchers. They could have chucked 2. It would only be pen 3, but they could have chucked 2 pen weapons at them. Okay, game the third. And this is... the actual mission is largely irrelevant, so I will briefly mention it, but I'm not really going to discuss it too much. It is far more a case of the board layout and my deployment and my opponent's deployment that decided this game almost entirely. And if you notice, it is very, very, very open. We've got fields, and we've got fields, which is going to give cover to any unit. Like if you're shooting over it, the enemy unit will get cover. But in terms of blocking line of sight, it's really only this building that's actually blocking line of sight. Everything else is open ground for the most part. So no matter where I come on, I'm going to be getting shot at immediately. And that's a problem, especially for my weak trucks. And so, whilst I would like to move the trucks up into some like line of sight blocking, make sure they're nice and safe in turn 1, and then nip out in turn 2, I don't think I can achieve that here. And so what I end up deciding on doing is I'm just going to be as aggressive as possible. So wherever my opponent deploys, whether it's in this building, which is most likely, or behind here, I'm just going to go straight as far as I can on a run order with the truck in a straight line, get that full 24 inches, get to the center line of the board as fast as possible, because when those trucks get destroyed, and they will absolutely get destroyed straight away, I need the models jumping out of those trucks to be as close to the enemy as possible. And ultimately I put both of the trucks up the middle here. So one went here and the other one went here. I've got them both here. I do have a building on my back line, so this is where my mortar squad and my sniper went. They've got basically the entire board as line of sight. And interestingly, my opponent had some Nacht Alban, and they put them in this building because they've got infiltrators. And I was surprised that my opponent put a unit so close to my board edge. But again, it's back to what I said in the previous game. Give your opponent something to deal with, and that's what my opponent did. Gave me something that I have to deal with. So there is a unit right here with the same Schwarzlight MP40s, pen weapon, 2 shots each. It's only 12 inches, so it's fairly close range, but that's still this whole area here that's under threat. So I have to deal with that. Otherwise, almost my entire enemy force is behind this building. So it is just a hard point that I have to pour everything into until it gets destroyed. And that is going to be the focus of this game. Whoever lives after that is going to take the objectives and win the game. So here's most of my opponent's deployment. So we've got the Nacht Alban here. We have, behind my webcam again, there is a Vogelspinner with the energy weapon up here, and that proved to be very annoying. Interestingly, there is a mundane squad just in the open here. I think my opponent was trying to bait me with them, but I didn't really understand what he was trying to achieve, and so I kind of just ignored them. Everything else is behind here. So there's Schreckwolves, there's Stahltruppen, there's the other mundane squad, there's another squad of Stahltruppen, and then behind the building is the Stahltruppen officer. And that's a good choice, because the Stahltruppen officer doesn't have any weapons of his own in this case. And so putting him behind the building means I can't directly target him until I get over there. Here's a better view of that, actually. So we've got Stahltruppen officer, Schreckwolves, mundane squad, 1 unit of Stahltruppen and 2 unit of Stahltruppen, and also a Heuschrecker, which thankfully doesn't get to deploy with jump, but still gets to move around with jump over the board. So, that unit of Nacht Alban that my opponent put right up to my board edge, I was in 2 minds about them. Do I ignore them? Do I focus a lot of attention on them? Or do I try to kind of just annoy them enough that they're no longer a problem to me, whilst also kind of getting on with my own stuff? And that's what I ended up trying to do. So, my Sasori here moved up behind the building, which gives him cover from everyone else on the board. And the intention was that in the second turn I would move out here and shoot at the Vogelspinner and the regular squad here. Or, because the tail has 360-degree firing arc, I can still move out here, shoot the machine guns at this squad, and shoot the tail back at the Nachtulben. So I'm kind of just doing a drive-by. My Sasori is going where it needs to go, and just taking out these by accident on the way past. Because that minimizes the effect that the Nachtulben has. However, the Nachtulben, in heavy cover in that building, provided quite a tough target to deal with. And they didn't go down anywhere as near as quickly as I had hoped. Here's my two trucks racing across the board. That's literally as far as I could get. That at least I tried to tuck it behind here so I could get light cover. Probably was a waste of time, but I tried. But yeah, getting as close as I can with all these units because I need this fight to go quickly and I need to start it on my terms. It did not go to my terms. And in fact, the Schreckwolfen immediately came through and charged my assault frames. Once again, assault frames are very good at going through mid-tier assault units or non-assault units and just churning through 2 or 3 of them. They are not good against the very best of the assault units, things like the Schreckwolves. So this is a fight that did not go well. What did go well, however, is my officer with those missile launchers. I always take them on the officer. I think they're very handy to have. And look, I took out the Heuschrecker with them. Even though you're only getting pen value of 3, which is not great, and you don't get point blank penetration bonus either, you're just getting... I was just getting +1 for the side armor, so it's basically a pen 4 weapon. But I have 2 shots, and I rolled well enough to destroy it. But you also notice that there's no assault frames left in this picture. And the Schreckwolves have bounced back into cover. Great. But then the Schreckwolves come out again and wipe out my officer. I think there was 5. Where's the deployment picture? Yep, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's 5 originally. And I managed to cut them down to 3. But that's not enough. My veteran squad here with the flamethrower, they're going to do well, right? That flamethrower, it can hit up to 6 models. It's going to do +2 pens. That's taking them out on 5s. That's great. First shot, missed. I get the first order die in the second turn. I shoot the flamethrower. It hits. How many does it hit? It hits D6. What did I roll? Roll the 1. Did I kill 1 Schreckwolfen? I did not kill 1 Schreckwolfen. Did I run out of fuel? Yes. Did I immediately get torn up by Schreckwolfen? Also, maybe. I'll come back to that. My lunch mine. My poor lunch mine. Given that the Heuschrecker here is destroyed, there's only the Vogelspinner, which is all of the way. It's not even in the frame of the picture, so I'm not going to move my webcam, but it's all the way over here. And there's absolutely no chance of him getting there. There's no vehicle to take him there anymore, so he just got shot down. Poor guy. I did move him onto the center objective, so at least I had the objective for a hot minute, but it wasn't enough. What ended up happening over here on the right hand side was very annoying. Because my opponent has the +1 penetration on the Schwezlight MP40 and has moved into my rear armor, as you can see there, because the Nachtulben have fast and fieldcraft. So, well, fieldcraft is not particularly relevant, but fast means they move 8 inches. So they got all the way around to the back of the vehicle and shot it in the rear armor. Didn't destroy it, but absolutely messed it up. Gave it loads of pins, set it on fire, immobilized it, and just over and over again did so much damage. Weirdly enough, though, that means that the Nachtulben squad are doing nothing else other than fighting my Sasori. In comparison to what happened in the first game, it's kind of a similar thing, that my Sasori is just tying up enemy units rather than actually being effective. In the first game, that was great because I had more points worth of opponents' models tied up than I had in Sasori. In this case, I don't think that's true because I think the Sasori is more expensive than the Naktalban, so I think this is trading in favor of my opponent. That is a very, very clear in-frame, in-focus view of my ghosts. So one thing I gave my ghosts that I usually don't do, but people have been doing it, so I gave it a try, is I gave them the disposable launchers. Because they can jump around, they can get within 12 inches of an enemy unit relatively easily. So if I deploy them as close as I can to the Vogelspinner, and then in the next turn advance, get within range of the Panzerfausts, or sorry, the Yumi Kumai launchers, I can throw off a volley of up to 6 of them into the rear armor. Yeah, there's cover, and yeah, it's not point blank range, but that's up to 6 shots that I can throw into them. I rolled a 2, so I got 2 shots. I also fired off the Shibori rifles, because hitting rear armor with Shibori rifle is also still valuable. However, I didn't actually destroy the Vogelspinner. I stunned it, I think, for 1 turn, and then in the next turn, it was just back up and ready to fight. So that was annoying. And this is back to the center of the board, essentially the same as it was a moment ago. But then, here is kind of the end of the game. One thing that is different, however, is this assault here. So if I go to this picture, here are 3 Shrek Wolves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Here are 9 of my 10 veterans with a flamethrower that's run out of fuel. So they've got no actual pen value. But NCO has a sword. Always give your NCO swords. Because several rounds of close combat and half a turn later, 1 Shrek Wolf survived. They wiped out the squad. Of course the Shrek Wolves wiped out a normal veteran squad. I wasn't expecting them to live. But they took out 2 Shrek Wolves with the swords. Always give your NCOs swords. Always. Here's my ghosts jumping onto one of the objectives here. And we have an objective here. So I do need to mention objectives now. This lump of terrain is the center objective. And at the beginning of turn 3, you roll an order die. So if I zoom in on an order die, you see that little arrow, that little kind of triangle shape there. If you roll an order die and you follow that arrow, you can actually get a direction. So if you need a scatter die and you've got an order die, you've got a scatter die. So we rolled that and we got this direction here. So in this particular game mode, you measure 12 inches in that direction and 12 inches in completely the opposite direction. And we now have 3 objectives. So these only appear at the beginning of turn 3. And my opponent immediately jumped onto one here. I've still technically got the middle one because of my lunge mine. And I now also have this one because of my ghost. They can jump about. So I'm technically winning. I've got barely any models left on the board, but I am winning the objective. But the mission isn't over. I want to go back to this assault over here. 9 models. Veteran, but mundane. 3 Shrek Wolves. 3 veterans left versus 1 Shrek Wolf. No Shrek Wolves. 1 veteran left with his sword. He won. That veteran squad actually won against the Shrek Wolves after probably 5 or 6 rounds of combat. They had 2 rounds of combat, moved away, 2 rounds of combat, moved away, 2 rounds of combat. So I think 6 rounds of combat. I do not know how 10 veterans didn't get completely wiped out, but I didn't get completely wiped out. I have one model left remaining, which actually means that he loses the Fanatics rule now that he's just one model. But this poor NCO, surrounded by the dismembered bits of his friends, looks over and sees the enemy Stormtrooper officer and is just like, I'm having you. He's just stabbed 3 werewolves. What's one Stormtrooper? So he goes charging off to fight the Stormtrooper, and in the next turn, the Stormtrooper gets the first turn, but my opponent sees the honor in a duel and charges me rather than just gunning me down. So he charges me, we have a round of close combat, and finally my models are all wiped out. I lose that combat. Stormtrooper lives. And that's that. The officer then uses his consolidate move. Sorry, no. A different squad in here comes onto the center objective, which means my opponent holds 2 and I hold 1 in the end. And so, unfortunately, that does mean that I have lost this game. So, my first game was win, my second game was a draw, and my third game was a loss. That's not terrible, but I also fitted everything into the campaign, into the story of all of the missions, and it went relatively well. We, like I mentioned this at the beginning, we have definitely improved over what happened in the first narrative event day that we ran, but there's still a few things that we can change and improve on. So we're going to talk with each other about how we kind of build the missions and how we assign them to players as we go, so that for the next time it should be an even better experience for people. So if there are any questions about any of the 3 missions, please ask them now. We do have quite a bit of time left, so I will probably grab some models that I am currently surrounded with, and I'll do some painting. An honourable duel. I respect my opponent for standing up to that duel, and unfortunately, yeah, I did lose that. That was fun though. I wonder how many Shrek Wolves did I kill today? Because that was a unit of 5, and I wiped them out. That was a unit of 6, and I killed 3 out of 6. And then that's 4 there. I think that started off as 4, and I wiped them out. So that's 4 and 5 is 9, plus 3 is 12. I killed 12 Shrek Wolves today. Oh, killing Shrek Wolves is a chore. I definitely need to be better about having an appropriate unit weapon in the list that can deal with Shrek Wolves, and then also very specifically putting them in the right place so that they can actually offend the werewolves. Because in this game, my Sasori is just in the wrong place. Never got line of sight on the Shrek Wolves. The Shrek Wolves were in my army without the Sasori being relevant. In the third game, my Sasori is over here, again, doesn't have line of sight on the Shrek Wolves, is tied up with Nakdalban, shouldn't have been there. In the second game, and I'll actually go to this picture, because this is the one I used for the thumbnail. That's a cool picture. I think that's a cool picture. I am in the right position. This is long range, but I'm still getting some shots in. I am taking a few models out, but weirdly, the mundane NCO with a sword killed more of the Shrek Wolves than the Sasori did. Maybe that's the answer. Maybe that's the takeaway from today. What I need to do is take a second assault platoon with 4 mundane squads and a mundane officer and give every NCO and the officer a sword. So only 2 points per sword, so that's 10 points worth of sword. And it's, what, 4 squads of 7 inexperienced models times 4, and then 3 inexperienced models for the officer with a sword. And a point of luck. We'll give them a point of luck because I can use the luck on the ghosts. There's no reason to have a point of guts on this officer like that. But yeah, dump them right in front of the Shrek wolves, and it's like, right, come and charge me. I'm going to stab you with my sword. You can kill absolutely just loads and loads of models, but as long as I've still got a sword ready, stabby, 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 stabby. Ah, yes. Assault frames. I love me some assault frames, but assault frames versus Shrek wolves is not a good fight. I've lost. I won this one. And then I lost the other one because it was right here. I lost this one quite badly, actually, because I think I took out one Shrek wolf for the entire squad of assault frames. And they took out the assault frame officer. And they took out 8 of the 9 veterans, but not the guy with the sword. Always give your NCO swords. Okay, let's have a look at chat. Clove says, imagination. I want it to go by my terms. My terms. Reality. It didn't go by my terms. That's just how it is. I think I said earlier in the stream. You've got a plan and you try to follow the plan, but your opponent gets a vote. The enemy gets a vote. So Smosh MP40, MP40 with pen value is interesting. Absolutely. Those Nukdalben with the I think it's called Shrelite MP40, but I'm not sure on that. That's a good unit because they're not quite as mobile as someone like the Ghosts or Fireflies, but they are fast and they have fieldcraft, so they can just beans it 18 inches through terrain. And they can just go and stand behind terrain out of line of sight and then 8-inch advance, shoot them, and then go into ambush and shoot again. So yeah, that's a strong option. Clove says the Ghost is caught truly in 4K. So many pixels. So many pixels. Absolutely. High resolution. And Andre says silver bullets should be an option. That would be an option. That would be a good option. I think my favourite thing about today, though, was this. My little lunge mine spotted the spinner and just wouldn't let go. Just absolutely went for it. Love me a lunge mine. Love me a lunge mine. Right. Let's move over to the painting camera. And let's grab some... Oh, would you look? Some Konflikt 47 models. Who could have predicted this? And some other Konflikt 47 models. Who could have predicted this? Can anyone predict what else I've got on my painting table? Is it perhaps more Konflikt 47? Oh, who put these here? Oh, more Konflikt 47 models. Who could have predicted this? I actually want to carry on with the Stole Trooping, I think. I apologise for the kids screaming in the background. I think this one shouldn't be here. Yeah, this one shouldn't be here. So this is the one I painted on the painting challenge. I did this at the Warlord Games Open Day. So this one's actually fully painted. I mean, if you can call that fully painted, the front's painted. And that's the important bit. Because I painted this during a challenge, even though I only had 10 minutes to do it, I'm quite happy to leave it how it is, because I don't want to fix the paint job, because that means I'm never going to have the record of what it actually looked like after the challenge. And it is a long way from perfect, but I did some freehanding. I want to recreate this. I want to work out a better design for this freehanding, but I want it to look kind of like this. This was originally meant to be like a dragon's claw coming in from the top. And so I want to do something like that there. But we have plenty of others. I actually do need to work out what I need to do on this. Because I've got the armor ready for the wash. I've got the metalwork ready for the wash. So is there anything else? I want to do these tanks in a different color. I want to call them out. Not just steel though. I might just do them black actually, because I'm going to do the masks in black. Let's try that. Yeah. That makes almost no difference. That makes more of a difference. Yeah, I think with it being centered, I do think that is an improvement. Yeah, I think that's it. I think we just go over the canister and the mask in black. This will not take long at all. Oh, actually, that's the point. There's two bands on the canister. So I can leave the bands in the armor color. Yeah, that's good. Yep, once that's gone through the wash. Once I put the black wash on it, that will pick out that detail quite nicely. So this is better because he's actually lifting his head up, whereas the others are a bit more kind of slouching. But he's got a cloak, so I actually do need to paint the cloaks. So I'll pop him aside, and I'll do his mask and pop him aside, and then I need to find the other one. I think the other one's got a bear head, so I need to find the bear heads and paint those with some amount of a skin tone. Yeah, this guy. Although, his canister is visible. Oh, actually, so is his. And so is his. Right. Okay. I was going to completely ignore the canisters because they were wearing the cloaks, but actually, you can still see the cloaks on these three. So I'm tempted to go with a green accent colour for the style treatment, which largely just means the cloaks. But that also means I can use a bit of green on the Folgerspinne. Good lord, this brush has just absolutely abandoned the plot right there. I wonder if I do green eyes for them. Like after everything else, this might be the very final detail. Just to get some of the... I've got some quite lurid... Oh, Panzerfaust's need painting. I've got a very bright but glossy green, so if I can put that on, it'll make them have very shiny, sticky looking eyes. Where's the other Panzerfaust? Here you are. Should I try and use that green as the highlight colour for the cloak? That's going to be difficult to work with because it's gloss paint. I'm not convinced. I'm liking the idea of using it on the eyes, though. I may have to get you guys to remind me. I'm going to do green eyes. Okay, here's another with a bare head, so I'll just get the canister and put him up with the other. I think I've got three bare heads. And by bare head, I mean not wearing helmet, not Ursus. seems like what I can do for the next stream is give these guys the wash, as of course I will always do for infantry, regular infantry models. Pick out the base coats as quick as I can, give them a wash, and then spend the rest of the time on detail work. We've basically torn through the base coats of these quite quickly because it's just the vast majority of the model is the armor color, so that's just one step. Up, here's a bear head. He's looking a bit Stingray. There's something about the sculpt of that head that it's a bit Stingray. I'm not a fan. Come back here. Andre says, do you want to do the ice today or do you want a reminder next time? I will not be doing the ice today. I might not even be doing the eyes next time either. If I get the wash done in between this stream and next, I'm probably going to come back and get stuck into the edge highlighting on all the armor, and then I'm probably going to do a little bit of highlighting on the uniform because you can see various bits of the Under Armour cloth in various places. Oh, did I do your helmet? Yes. It depends on how things go, really. It depends on how long I take on each step. Reedy, hi, how you doing? You have, unfortunately, missed all of the discussion of the games. But I am still going through a little bit of painting of some Style Troopers, so you're more than welcome to hang around for a bit. What are we at? We're at 8:30. We've got half an hour left. That's plenty of time for hanging out and talking nonsense. Do I need to put any on this? There are canisters. They're a different type of canisters, but there are canisters on the back of the Vogelspinner. And so, for the sake of some amount of coherency, I'm going to paint those black as well, in the same way I've done for the Stahltruppen. I should probably paint green in here as well, in the vents, because a lot of people do a glow effect on these. I think that would be fun to do. Turret. No. Other turret. Need to do green on the Shey cannon. But no black. No. And then the fun anti-aircraft cannon. Autocannons. No, there's not going to be any black here either. So that's the black done. So I've got 2 to do the Panzerfausts on, 3 that have bear heads, and also 3 that have cloaks. Oh, you're a cloak. If I can find any of my skin tone paints, here we go. That'll do. Don't need much because I've just got 3 faces to do. Helps if I don't rub off all of the paint onto my thumb and then also mess up my brush. Is that hair or is that a skull cap? I think that's like a skull cap. Because there's a band for his headset and then at the back is just smooth. I'm going to paint that black as if it's like an under-armoured hood and he's taken his helmet off but he hasn't taken the cap off. This guy, however, very distinctly has hair. And this guy also distinctly has hair. So this guy just needs the skull cap, and then I can put him with the done pile. So you just need green, you just need green, you need hair, and you need Panzerfausts. I happen to have brown on my wet palette, so I'm just going to give them brown hair. That brown is looks almost orange in comparison to my skin colour. Thing is, it looks very neutral brown on the wet palette. But then it looks orange here as well. What's opposite orange? Blue. The armor's blue. Maybe that's why. So you need green, you need green, you need green. Right. Greens. Is there any life left in this? No. You can actually see the blue at the bottom of the pot. Yeah. That's gone. into the bin with you. But I already have a new green, so that's no drama at all. Where does it even start? There have definitely been models in the past that I've been painting a particular feature in a particular color, and I go around the model, I come around to the other side, and somewhere along the line I've switched to a different feature of the model, and so I get back to the start and I've painted the whole thing like all the way around in this color where it was only supposed to be a certain part. So I'm trying to be careful to paint the cloak green and only the cloak and no part of the armor. I thought I got out enough green for all three, but I've used it all in the first one. And actually, not even that, because I need to be thicker green. This is such a pretentious thing. You're wearing this big suit of armor, and you want to wear a cloak, so you're wearing a cloak as well. But this cloak actually feeds in and out of the armor, so it's not just like a piece of cloth that they've draped on over the top, or like a normal cloak that they're wearing. No, this is a custom-made cloak to go with this set of armor. Yeah, you can see on this one, that's a bad example because that's also got a cloak. Here's just a normal one. You can see that kind of around the back of the head armor plate there. And on this one, it's got an extra lip that I'm painting green. That's part of the cloak, and you can actually follow it all the way around to be part of the collar of the cloak. Yuli came back to the stream and stole a Space Marine. Ugh. How dare you slander my stream with this? I mean, I'll paint Space Marines. I'll paint Space Marines all day long. I just won't paint Games Workshop Space Marines. I'm just gonna come back in because I got some green on the hair. I mean, by the time I finish painting it, that'll disappear, but just in case. I might focus again. I am. Doing a good job of just bouncing in and out of focus today. Yep. Right. Done. You can go in the box. See, this cloak, it's just a piece of cloth that's attached to the two regular pins. So if you look at just a normal model, there's two like loops on the back of the neck armor, and this piece of cloth is just tied to the two, and it just drapes down in this really odd way. I can only imagine this is some kind of identification flag rather than, hey, look at me in my cool cloak that I'm wearing. Whereas the office, that officer, that's a cloak that's specifically tailored around the armor, not just the character. Okay, that's that one. Now there's one more cloak. Here we go. Probably got enough green. Appreciate Warlord trying to get creative with the cloak, but this grandpa forgot to tie his bathrobe again. Open design is not doing it for me. Oh, that one. Yeah. You could easily cut off that bit. Smooth off some of the folds here, and then add some material and just button it all the way down and just have him wearing a... It would almost look like a cleric from Equilibrium. They had that trench coat buttoned all the way down, or in some scenes they did. So this guy has a similar kind of deal. This one that I just did, that is a separate piece that you have to glue on. Whereas these two, this one that I've already done, and this one that I'm about to do, are actually sculpted one piece with the torso. For whatever relevance that is worth. Now, as soon as I've got this green down, I'm going to use the rest of the green mixed with tan for the Panzerfaust. That is assuming I don't make a mess of everything here. This is a much smaller. What? But even this guy, with his nice tailored cloak that buttons up, at least at the top, around the collar, has this collar that goes underneath the armor. Even this one, it goes around the armor underneath the shoulder, and then like through the shoulder armor, but it doesn't cover the power pack. Maybe the power pack's getting hot. Maybe that's like an exhaust of stuff, and you can't put fabric on there or you'll catch fire. I guess. Perhaps. Maybe. It's weird. Andre said, what could be the point of the cloak? If he's cold in power armor, a bit of cloth isn't going to help. I don't think this is for like keeping you warm. Almost certainly not. Moving around in this armor is going to keep you hot enough, even in winter. Just walking is going to heat you up. it must be to signify an officer, because these are all character models. So this is the one from which one's which? So this one's from the starter set, this one's from the Axis starter army, and this one in the middle is from the reload special diorama. So they're all special characters. So I guess they're all NCOs. I'm going to use these as my NCOs. Or well, I'm going to use this one as my officer. I might sculpt a some. What was I saying? I've knocked my headset, so now I can't hear anything. It was only music anyway. If the music's terrible, let me know. Right. Panzerfaust. So I've got some of that odd tan. I'm not sure if I'm a fan of this new tan that I've got. I've been painting it on my... Oh, that's too much tan. I need more green. There we go. That's better. Yeah. Because I painted so much tan on my British models for bolt action, because they're the desert rats, I've kind of continued the tan paint for my automatons, and I'm just not that much of a fan of it. I'm really liking how the metalwork is ending up looking. Come on. I've not got any more of this paint. I need it to last for one tiny bit more. That'll do. That'll do. Got it. Yeah. Right, I think those guys are ready for the wash now. I did the skin, the Panzerfaust. There was no other minor detail, was there? Ah, yes, there is. The ammunition for these needs to be in gold. Is there any exposed ammunition on the light machine gun? No, there isn't, because it's all in the drums, isn't it? So it's just the anti-tank guns. So I've got 3 of those. 1, 2, 3. Gold paint, please. Andre says a flag would make more sense. More likely to catch on things. No capes. No capes. And Yuli says, any general tournament advice for Konflikt? My advice for tournament for Konflikt 47 is the same as tournaments for any other game. Go to have fun. Read the pack that the tournament organisers have put out, and if you have any questions, put them in early. Because if you ask on the night before, they're not going to have time to answer it because they're busy setting up stuff. But if you can ask a question a few weeks in advance, they can get back to you and are much more likely to give you a nicer response. Play to the best of your ability in terms of following the rules. So that does mean you need to know the rules. But always be open to a discussion with your opponent about, oh, I want to do this particular thing, and I think the rules say this, and your opponent probably kind of understand your intention and let you do stuff, but it is a case of If you need to talk with a TO, you can do, but most of the time you just talk with your opponent and sort these problems out. Just be open to sorting problems out like that. But mainly, one of the more important things is go to have fun, not to win, because particularly for your first tournament, you're not going to win. So go to have fun, meet people that play the game. Going to a tournament's actually really good practice for just playing the rules of the game, and you will come back to casual games with a much kind of tighter understanding of how to play the game. I have the habit of bouncing very hard back in the other direction and playing very casually in casual games. And being like, oh, my opponent wants to do this? Sure, whatever, I don't mind. You want to do this thing that's pretty much against the rules? Yeah, go ahead, I don't care. I've ended up kind of bouncing in that completely opposite direction, because it's the thing about certain games in tournaments, not Konflikt 47, but certain other games that just drive me mad for the almost like destructive adherence to the rules, to the point where you're not having fun, you're not recreating a realistic like battle, whether it's science fiction or a historical game. You still should be reasonable within the confines of whatever universe it's in. But yeah, there are some people that push far too far in that direction. Generally speaking, Bolt Action and Konflikt 47 aren't like that. There are some very competitive Bolt Action players. It's generally not that way in Konflikt. Yeah, don't stress too much about the actual gaming. Remember your riff dice. Remember your order dice. Remember your tape measure. Remember your blast marker. Remember a dice bag. Andre says, leaving early, quit smoking 2 days ago and need to commit some video game violence. Have a great week. See you all next week. You have fun. Have a nice, relaxing shoot 'em up in whatever game you're playing. I need to work out how I did the bases, because all of the other ones are fully based. It's just these two, because they got separated. This one didn't have a base, and I've only found a base more recently. And this one has the diorama base. Actually, that's a good point. I do have it here. Because I need to do this diorama base in the same way as that. I'm going to come back to that, and conveniently it's also 9 o'clock, so I can abandon ship at this point. Yeah, that cloak is just silly. It's kind of a cool model, but when you start noticing how that cloak is put together, how do you even put it on? How do you wear the armor? Because it's underneath the collar, but then it's over the top of the chest. It's over the top of it's underneath the Stop it. It's just a game. It's fiction. It's not real. Oh boy. Okay, if anyone has any questions before I end the stream, ask them now and I'll try to answer them before I end the stream. Otherwise, next week we will have a normal stream and we will be back painting the Stahltroopen. I will have them a dark wash put on all of them over the course of the week, so that we can get stuck straight into the highlighting on the armor next week. As for video, I do have a couple of videos in production, but I haven't, kind of like last week, I haven't actually decided which one it needs to be. I was hoping that I would get further along with my automaton bots, but it's just, I don't like the paint job. It's just this uninspired tan, and I don't even like the tan because this is a different tan than I've been using before, and it's very neutral. The older sandy tan that I had was very yellow, and this isn't. This one isn't done, so there is some highlighting, so maybe once I finish highlighting it I will prefer it. We will just have to see. I want to finish this one up and then I'll make my decision, and it might just be a case of I'm going to paint them this way because it's very, very, very easy for me to do so. Spray paint silver, a little bit of brown, tan on the armor panels, green on the ammo for the weapon, or on the water jacket for the Maxims, black wash, tan edge highlight, job done. It's a very, very easy paint job. The metal does look really good. It looks good in person, it looks good on camera. The metalwork is great. It's just the tan that I'm not convinced about. So I'm going to do them, I'm going to paint them up this way with this tan. And then at some point in the future I might decide to highlight them again with a different tan, with a yellowy tan or with some other colour. Because I can always go over just the armor panels and leave the metalwork alone, because I like the metalwork. Yuli says, you still want clothes to fit in a non-fictional way, even in fiction? Or in a fictional way, even in non-fiction? Or in a non-fictional way in non-fiction, or in a fictional way in fiction? I've just confused myself. I will try to get the automatons done, and I will try to make that my video for next week. The stream for next week will be the Stahltruppen. I will have a wash put on those so that we can get stuck straight into the armor. But for now, I'm ED-SKaR, always will be, and thank you to everyone who has watched the stream. It has been a good one. I will see you all later.